So I know from the very start of sort of when we were starting to build a team out, you talked to me about progression a lot and the importance of progression for like everyone across the business. I guess it'd be good to sort of explain that and give everyone a bit of context about, your thought process behind that and why it's really important to you.
I mean, I think progression is something that everyone should take seriously. And I think, before starting the Social Shepherd, I was really junior in both my roles. And the first ever job that I had, there wasn't really anywhere for me to progress to. I worked in a new business team in an agency. And even so, to the point that, I had someone from a really senior point in the business promise me progression to this point, and then whenever I actually 6 months later went, okay, well, that's where I'd like to go now, the people that were in charge of that wouldn't let me progress there. And so it was because I hadn't had that down on paper, that had been a verbal conversation, and I just think my expectations were really poorly managed there. So I think the ability to progress is really important, but how that progression is managed is even more important. And I think I always say to like the team here that if your team have to ask to progress or ask for a pay rise, then you're not doing your job correctly as a manager, because you should know when to reward people and you should be close to it. I mean, it's just really important because I've been there myself. Like, I understand what it's like to have that poorly managed, and I understand what that feels like. It's really like disheartening. So yeah, I just think it's important to set everyone goals, manage everyone's expectations, and give people the ability to know what they need to do to get to the next step.
Yeah,
because otherwise you're not even giving them an option.
Yeah, and how we can best facilitate their like goals.
Yeah,
that everyone's got their own individual aspirations, haven't they, of where they want to be. So it's being able to help facilitate that, and if they're almost not ready for that, showing them how they can be ready for that as well, and guiding them in the right direction to be, level up to that where they want to go.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to keep in mind is like tangible goals. So when we write our progression sheets, we've got things to work on, which can be like
more top line.
Yeah, like get better at, more confident in client comms or something like that. That could be a things to work on.
Yeah.
But the tangible part of that is be consistently more confident and proactive in client communications over a course of 3 months.
Lead on X amount.
Yeah, like lead on X amount of status calls, lead on X amount of reporting calls. And it's like actually things that people can go tick, tick, tick. Now, of course, they can't tick, tick, tick if the other parts of their job aren't being facilitated and aren't being done properly. But it's a really clear way that people can go, I know that I've done X, Y, Z. That's what's expected of me for my next step. Done it. There we go.
Yeah.
And we always say to people, once you've ticked those, you have every single right to tick them all off, take it to your manager and go, there you go. You signed this. I signed this piece of paper for, online. And now I'm ready for my next step. But we don't really tend to get to that point here because we have monthly progression meetings that are not to do with like the day-to-day stuff, not to do with how your clients are doing. How are you doing? How are you progressing? How are you feeling? And then because we have those so regularly and we are very strict about people having them, managers know when people are ready to progress without them needing to ask for it. And I think that's a really nice position to be in, is to be given something, not having to ask for it.
Yeah, and one thing we've come across recently, having recently hired some more senior people, we've got one that's just joined at the time of this recording, one joining soon. They've asked about what's their ability to progress, even though they might be a head of department or sort of in the leadership team. No matter where you are, everyone wants to progress.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think anyone really wants to be doing the same job for like years and years and years. Everyone's job should evolve or change. And even if you're a director or a head of department, there's always other places that you can go to. And whether that's coming out of a skill specific role and going into more of an operational and direction of business role, and that can be one way of sort of going in it, or equally it's just like honing in on like that real sort of professionalism and stepping away from the day-to-day work. Every single person at every single level, like, I want a progression plan, and I think that's really important. So I don't think you get to a certain point and then you go, right, sorry, that's me, I'm chilling here for the rest of my working life. It just doesn't quite work like that.
If you're as ambitious to get there in the first place, you still probably have that ambition inside you and drive to keep on going.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as a business, I always say, like, we're consistently moving forward. And I think the people that we hire, they too are consistently wanting to move forward in their careers. So that's where kind of like the magic happens, is because we enable them to do that, and they enable us to drive the business forward with their work. So yeah, it works, and it is super important. I think everyone needs to feel valued, and everyone needs to feel that like they can really grow and flourish here, and that's what we try and do.